Hello, and welcome to the Let Them Live podcast. I'm Emily Burning, your host, and also the president and co-founder of Let Them Live. We bring you interviews with unsung heroes and inspiring individuals who are in the fight to save babies, mothers, and fathers from abortion. Our goal is to amplify their voices and bring their stories to the forefront, shedding light on the incredible work they do and the lives they touch. This is more than just a podcast. It's a platform that allows everyone to share their pro-life stories and inspire us to passionately continue advocating for life. Welcome back to another episode of the Let Them Live podcast. I'm Emily Burning. I'm your host. I'm also the co-founder and president of Let Them Live. I am just so excited, as I always am, to do this podcast because it's amazing to just highlight people that are doing things in the movement, right? Not just saying they're pro-life, but actually putting it into action. And I'm so excited to interview Amy tonight because the beautiful thing about the pro-life movement is we're all called in different ways. We're all called to do different things, use our talents and our time and our unique gifts to serve women and serve their children. And so Amy has a really cool connection to Let Them Live in her capacity. She's also got a really cool testimony. So I'm really excited to share and interview her about that. And she is a mother of 2 teenage boys. So she's got her work cut out for her. She's a wife. She's a former ECE teacher and pro-life from womb to tomb, as all of us are. When she's not doing her full-time job, which is in construction management, she is making yarn items. I'm not crafty at all. So she's also reading books. She's knitting and crocheting. And that's how she got involved with Let Them Live as a volunteer. Just she started as a donor, but now she makes handmade items for moms and their babies. And it's so amazing. And she even made me a little gift too. So Amy, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast.
It is funny if you introducing me. I'm like, yeah, I'm probably like one of the few volunteers that like made herself a position.
It's so funny that you bring that up because that's just Let Them Live, where someone might join and they're like, what should I do? I'm like, we're going to make it as we go. You know what I mean? So I'm glad you found yourself a spot.
Thank you for having me. I sound so professional.
Right? Sometimes I surprise myself. I know that you have a really amazing little bit about it, and I would love for you to share just your own personal journey, and hopefully you can't hear my dog barking in the background. Oh my gosh. Never.
That's okay. I gave mine a treat. Yeah. If you hear a howl, it's not the kids. They're
dogs.
gone.
But maybe your personal journey and your personal testimony and how you came to be pro-life and like where that all started.
Yeah, I'm a Christian, so I always was pro-life, but I was one of those I'm pro-life, but so rape and incest and things like that. I was maybe we need to not, maybe it's, and it wasn't until I started learning more about the actual act of abortion. And I am a statistic. I'm a stereotype of all the things that people say, why you should get abortion: poverty, abuse, unwanted, accident. I was all of the results of all of those things. And my mother, I was literally the result of an affair.
Oh my gosh.
So my mother was not a mentally well person, and she made sure I knew that she had 2 abortions before me, and which it sounds horrible for her to bring that up, but that shows you how mentally unwell she was. But so I didn't have the best childhood. I was poor, I had a disabled father, a mentally unwell mother. I was a oops that the whole family was like, oh, okay, she shouldn't be here, but I was. And of course I didn't know all that until older, but I don't think I shouldn't be here just because of those circumstances. And I don't think that circumstances define us. And I worked really hard growing up to leave behind poverty, to leave behind abuse. And I clawed my way to what one would consider an extremely blessed life with a husband and children and a stable job and a college degree and a room full of yarn. And I think I should have always had that chance. And I don't like that excuse when people do that we're saving babies and from hardship and we're saving humans from a hard life, because life is hard for everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're born absolute abject poverty or you're born to a millionaire. Life is still hard and it's going to stink at sometimes, and it's going to be great at sometimes. And life is not defined by one single bad tragedy.
Who's the one person too? It's when someone tells me like, oh, they're going to have bad life. I'm like, so you have a crystal ball that somehow, and it's so subjective. It's so in your mind, they're going to have, an awful life. And they just shouldn't live because of the circumstances. But in reality, it's who are any of us to determine what awful or what someone else's life looks like. And honestly, sometimes, most of the time, it's the things that we go through, the hard times that actually shape who we are and what we then contribute and give back. And so that's amazing that you're like the person that people always say should be aborted. That probably doesn't feel very good when people bring up an argument.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. And I run another social media account, like just my own, and I encounter, and I'll post stuff like that I'm like, we can hear you. When you say that those of us who lived hard lives, or a child with special needs, or a child born to just one mother, she should not be here. It's okay. We can hear you when you say those things, and you're saying our life has no value, because I think my life has value. Even if I never crawled out of poverty, even if I never overcame anything, my life still had value.
When did you start like realizing that? Like, when did you become like pro-life in a sense? Like where you're like
more actively pro-life?
Was there a moment that it kind of hit you like, oh, abortion is not like a good solution?
I grew up being taught that abortion is wrong and it ends a life. I had some misunderstandings about certain things because I did have a family member who somehow managed to conceive after hysterectomies, and she had to have a D&C. Like, there was no womb for the baby to grow. I don't know how she was that fertile.
Wow. I never heard of this.
There was literally nowhere for the baby to grow.
Oh my gosh.
Now, this was years ago, decades ago. So I think science has since changed and hysterectomies have gotten better. But she got a tubal, she got pregnant. She had a partial hysterectomy, she got pregnant. I'm like, wow. But so for a long time, I was like, oh, we should have abortion because in her case, she had to have it. But that's not actually an abortion. It's a D&C, or whatever the medical procedure names are. I don't know the legal coding names, but it's not an abortion. The baby was not ever going to live. It had nowhere to live.
And people like to use one-off circumstances as well, or very rare things to justify abortion for all other situations. So, okay. So it's more because
so like I kind of grew up with, we should have abortion, but or rape or incest. And it wasn't until I started really digging deep and just started to think, okay, one trauma doesn't beget another one. I don't think that because one horrible thing happens, we should, and because one person commits a crime, that the baby should have to be punished for that. And a lot of people will shoot back at you. It's a horrible thing she has to carry. And I'm like, I agree. It is a horrible thing that happened, but you can't make that horrible thing go away by removing 100%. And ending another innocent.
I remember my dad, this was years ago, and I only knew them to be like pro-life. And when I got more involved in the movement and everything, I started to know how to defend my position and all of that. And I remember my dad saying cases of rape and incest. And I was like, whoa, what? When I had to defend it to him. And then he was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So now he's been pro-life all the way ever since. So that must have been like a switch for you, because it's one of those hard things where that should have never happened to a woman. Women should never be raped. Right. But then now you have another life in the mix. So when did that, ever since that moment, that's when you became more active in the movement, would you say?
I guess just a little bit. Yeah, I also, my first job was a teacher in early childhood education. And I specifically worked in low income socioeconomic, I'm not going to name the entity, but most people know what the entity is. And in the program that it was mostly teenage mother, it was babies birth to 3 for the most part. So these were high school mothers, college mothers. You had to meet certain criteria to have your baby be in it. And so I saw every circumstance that could be for a child to be born. I had a 12-year-old mother. I saw it and I saw how hard it was, but I also saw all the resources we gave them and how beautiful their babies were and how happy they were there. And it was she was 12. Could she really have consented at 12? Not really. In her case, it wasn't rape or incest, but she really can't consent at 12, but here she is pregnant. And so it was seeing it in real life is like, that baby deserves to be here. She deserves a chance to finish school, go to
And not
college, and
have
live her dreams
and not
just
have
because
the
she's
pain
having
of
a child.
abortion either, like, that's
Right.
an aspect
Right.
to
And I
things
will
that people
say
don't talk about.
it does. And I have asked personal friends, and I have asked, and I've had friends privately reveal to me that they've had them, because I've asked, I'm like, hey, I don't want to hurt you by my advocacy. I don't want you to think I think you're a horrible person for that you had that happen. And I can't say that in other circumstances I wouldn't have made the same decision. I don't know. So I try to make sure that I'm clear that I'm not judging a person who does choose to have an abortion, because a woman is stuck in that decision. And I try to keep post-abortive resources and stuff on hand. And I've only had one person tell me that they are glad they did it. And I don't know how true that really is, or if that's just something they've
right. To make it
made
better.
sense in their head
Yeah.
to make it okay. I think there's lots of things that people do to make things comfortable in their head and to sleep at night. And I understand that. I lived a trauma-filled child life. I know you do what you have to do to survive.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to think
you're
that
coming from
we shun anybody.
That's such a unique thing too,
that.
Amy, that you're coming from a place of like understanding. And that's something that like we really believe at Let Them Live, which kind of led into my other question. What drew you into Let Them Live? Where did you first find out? Because that's definitely our approach. We're going to meet these women where they're at, and we're going to love them through everything.
And that's definitely where, first of all, social media has obviously helped tremendously. Like I just finished reading you and Nathan's book, and it's so true how different now with technology things are. A woman that's in Planned Parenthood can Google and search and find something. So I think I found y'all on Instagram. I really don't remember. Probably Instagram, because that's where all the yarn is.
Yeah.
I go to Instagram for yarn, pro-life, and cats. Like that's what Instagram is for, and recipes. But I'm a Gen Xer, so I'm not on the TikTok. So I was on Instagram, and I'm pretty sure it was just when I just saw something. I don't even know if I searched pro-life or whatever, because I follow quite a few, like you guys, secular pro-life. I really love what they do. Pro-life Spider-Man, love him, scares me to death. Can't watch the videos.
He's got something coming up that I can't say when or where, but
I love what he does, and he's the greatest guy. But I have to scroll. I let it play, so the algorithm will see it.
No,
and
I just talked to him on the phone a little bit ago. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled or don't. That's awesome though.
I know. I'm like, I'll listen to it. I'm like, okay, they wouldn't post it if he wasn't okay. So
it's so cool that you connected with us, and it's amazing because you're in Louisiana, right? Yeah. So it's amazing how we get connected through the mission, through a common love of women over social media. You live in Louisiana, we're in Florida. It's so amazing. Right. And you, like you mentioned, you created, so you started as a donor, and then
yeah, I did. I just donated every now and then. And then I did join the Heartbeat Club, and I'm still in the Heartbeat Club, because that's what I like the most about Let Them Live is that although you are now a Christian organization, it's not shoved down your throat, because I don't think that's always how you get somebody.
Yeah.
And a lot of my beliefs on things are consent based. I'm extremely advocate of consent. And I think that's one of the huge things is that, first of all, the baby can't consent. And number two, I don't think the woman gets proper consent. So you guys meet the women where they are and individual little problems that need fixing. And it's okay. I've been in that situation where $200 can make your life a total different story. So I'm like, I have grown up where it's okay. It's the end of the month. We don't have anything neat now.
Yeah. And we're called to meet the physical needs as well. Talking about spiritual needs definitely need to be met, but it's more, you're not going to hold off on that until you get the spirit. So you have to meet physical needs, and that's even biblical, which is amazing. And so, really meeting the women where they're at. And I think the coolest thing, you can talk a little bit about what you do for Let Them Live, which is so cool. But sometimes just a reminder to the moms that they're loved and they're cared for can go a long way. And a handmade baby blanket, all the cute stuff that you guys make can really go a long way. And you're not just a one-man show. So talk about that, because you're not just...
No, I'll definitely explain how it works. And I think that's because one of the things that keeps me, one of my favorite phrases is, it's from a song lyric, and it says, "It's just a phase, it's not forever." And I think that's very pivotal to what Let Them Live does, is because it helps them see, look, this imminent need right in front of us is not forever. We can bypass this problem and keep going, and it'll be one more step. No, not everything's going to be easy, but it's just a phase, not forever. And I do think that it's okay to say that motherhood's hard, and I think it's okay to say that life is hard, but that there's a community and that there's ways to navigate the hardness. But I did create my own position because that's what I do. I generally just spent my life, adult life, going through and finding problems. Like I used to be I'm still an education advocate. I homeschooled my kids for a while. I was an advocate on that. Like I've been on national TV before advocating for things. So I'm not afraid to speak up, and I'm not afraid to be the person in the boardroom or school board room or government, your legislative capital, arguing with people. I have no problem with that. I have no problem being a loudmouth. So I think I just saw what you guys were doing, and I became a donor, and I was like, we have a huge knitting and crochet and sewing crafty community. And people have brought me blankets before because we do have a local crisis pregnancy center, which I've not been able to get in touch with, and I'm still trying to do. And I used to, and I still do, I would donate to an organization called Abigail's Hope and Rachel's Gift, and they are organizations for stillborn and miscarriage. So they make blankets and little tiny hats and booties and things and hospitals partner with them so that when the loss happens, the mom can take this memory box, and a lot of times they'll make like a doll and it's filled with the weight of what the baby was. And it's just this really beautiful thing. And I started thinking as I was just helping with that, I used to make octopuses for NICU babies. Like I always just was making for babies. And I'm like, maybe they want something. Maybe they mail mom something. I don't know. Let me just email Emily.
Yep, I remember when you emailed me and I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Honestly, it's like anyone that wants to send anything that we can like give to our moms, it's a huge blessing because I know I can't knit. I tried to learn. It was so bad, Amy. So to have you guys.
You can learn. Everybody stinks at first.
To have you guys doing it. And it's with so much love too. And that's the beautiful thing is love is literally going into every stitch, every, thing that you're doing.
Yeah, because so many of us knit and crochet for babies in our lives, or just there's a ton of charity crafting that goes on. There's Facebook groups for it, and we'll all work together and be like, okay, this shelter needs 50 hats, and people from all over organize. So I have a podcast with my sister where we talk about yarn, and I decided to do a fundraiser and try to encourage our view. And we're small potatoes, like we're not monetized or anything, and I tried, and I said, hey, I think it was summer of 22 maybe. And I said, let's fundraise for Let Them Live. And I've gotten in touch with Emily, and we're going to donate physical items. Y'all send me stuff. So I think we ended up raising like over $1,000. And I collected so much stuff. Like this room was empty before all this started. One woman sent me a giant box full of hats because she lost both of her sons to illness, and that's almost all she does is just craft for charity. And I'm just like, she literally sent me like 180.
Well, we've got a lot of babies to give those to, so it's so amazing because they just keep coming, Amy. Yeah. Like I'm shocked.
How can you? It's so cute.
Literally so cute.
So I did not make this. And I know that the crisis pregnancy centers have said they do like to have the little things because it's something. Hold a little pair of baby booties in your hand and really think about it. It makes it more real. It's a real person. This fits a baby, a 0 to 3 month baby. Something that's tiny while you may not sleep much is precious.
100%. I think that's so amazing. I love that. Again, like it's what you're talented at. It's like everyone can do something, and we have to do something. It's not so much like we can't just say we're pro-life. Like we actually have to do something about it.
I can't be a counselor. The counselors are amazing. I see on the back end through the Discord server, I see what y'all do. I see the hard work. I can't emotionally handle that. And with my day job, I don't have time to go to the crisis pregnancy center and try to help with there. And having done education, advocacy, and legislation, that's really hard. And you put in so much work, and half the time nothing happens, or something, you pass a law and it gets changed. And it's just so frustrating. And that's another thing is I try not to get too much in the legislation. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not here to change laws. The laws are what they are, and they are what they are. And it's not my job to change them right now. But if one woman can have her life changed and not experience that pain and that suffering and that trauma, then let's do something and celebrate it. And I know that you guys we take care of their needs, but rent and cars and lights and stuff. That's a need. But I thought that's what made me think of it. I was like, maybe they're not getting like a baby shower. Maybe they're not getting handmade presents from a grandma. Maybe they're estranged from their family. Maybe they just don't have that resource. And every baby deserves a handmade blanket and a hat.
I agree.
And,
I remember my blanket from when I was a baby, and
sweet.
it was given to us in love and from a neighbor that was like a grandma. And some people, you're right, don't have that. And so I think it's really cool. So
Right.
you guys are the LTL Handmade Alliance. I think who came up with that name?
Oh, that was our little special thing for you. We made when we were secretly plotting to give gifts to you.
I thought it was like a.
That's what that was. That was our secret. But we do have a little crafty subgroup of Let Them Live. Like some of us draw and some of us knit and crochet, and some volunteers have sent me stuff.
I thought that was just like your name. I was like, I love it. The Handmade Alliance.
No, we made that up to surprise you and give you.
I was surprised. I got to show you guys. I don't have it with me. It's in my room, but just to represent our sweet embroidery.
But I literally get packages. I have 8 packages right here ready to go out in the mail. One is holding up my computer, and I have boxes and boxes of stuff that people give me, and they just mail it from all over. And it's just from my own social media, my own podcast, my own knitter friends. And then I'm slowly starting to branch out. But I always need more. And like I posted on my own Facebook the other day, I was like, I need boy stuff. I don't know what happened in 2023. We had a lot of boys. There was a lot of boys. Like I looked like almost all the packages I sent.
If someone wants to send something or get involved and make things, like how would they connect with you? Can you share how to reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, they can email if you want to put it in the show notes or whatever. They can email me at my Let Them Live email, however you want that. However you want that to
What's
happen.
your Instagram and your YouTube as well?
The YouTube is 2 sisters and some yarn, and it's just silliness. It's just me and my sister talking about knitting and crocheting. So that is where I do the bulk of it. Like I constantly always have what we call a make along in the crafty world, meaning we all make either the same things or same premise of things. And so I use that as like a make along thing, and people will send stuff to me. I'll keep track of it. And then I entered it when I'll pick a name out of the hat and I'll mail them like a skein of yarn or something. Just a little, that's incentive, but that's not how I do it. But
that's awesome.
But I regularly get boxes of these sweaters, these blankets and stuff. But we've had so many babies that stuff just goes. And my only request is that people do try to make stuff washable, which if you're a knitter crocheter, you know what that means. But just because moms have enough to do that they don't need to hand wash
100%
a blanket and lay it flat to dry and all that. But I mean, it doesn't have to be knit or crochet. It could be sewn. It could be anything from bibs to booties to stuff from mom too, nursing covers, things like that. So I don't get a lot of that, but any kind of handmade thing that you would give somebody for a baby shower.
Yes.
That's what I used to, in the beginning, I used to email the moms and try to get their color preferences and stuff, but that kind of got
the
hard
system
to take
breaks
care
down.
Of.
That's the thing about Let Them Live too. It used to be, it's different when you are helping 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 moms versus 1 or 2 or 3 or 400. So it changes the game a little bit.
That kind of held everything because I would have to wait for them to reply. And if they didn't reply, because I was paying for the shipping for myself for a good chunk of the time, but then we had to replace our HVAC system. That's really expensive. So thankfully you guys were able to help with the shipping. So now I just, as long as me and you don't fight over the stamps.com printer like we did.
That's something we had an issue with. I kept printing a thing from stamps.com and I was like, why is it not printing? And then Amy, you put in the Discord chat, you're like, yeah, so if someone's trying to print like 10 labels, I was like, oh, that would be me.
I'm like, thank goodness I don't keep paper in the printer because it was like flashing and making noises. I'm like,
wondering. So funny. I think it's amazing. And I think that more people should send stuff. So I'll make sure to get the information if anyone wants to make things and send things. I think it's really cool what you do. And I love that you also have a personal story behind it as well. And that you're living proof of kind of the reason that people justify abortion.
I just want people to know you're not going to change everybody's minds. Like I do get into debates sometimes and talk to people, but I think you have to meet people where they are too. So if you're talking to somebody who it's a clump of cells and that's it, you have to change how you talk to them. But I've had interactions. I had an interaction with a man on another pro-life page, and because I was told I was romanticizing my abuse in my childhood. And I was like, that's extremely unfair. I said, most of society agrees that when somebody can come up from something bad, that's a good thing. We should aspire to better. And we had some back and forth. And finally, at the end of the day, I was like, look, let's pretend in a perfect world that we can remove the abuse, the poverty, the disability, the everything you say that is a reason we should abort. Would you still support abortion? And he ignored me for days and days and days. And then he finally answered me and said, yes. And I was like, then it's not about choice. It's about control. And you can't make that. You can't talk to that person because you're not going to ever get anywhere with them. So I do try to pick my battles.
That's great advice. And that was going to be my next question. What would you tell people? And I think that's a big thing, like not to get caught up in things that aren't really going to go anywhere. And then also just always being respectful. Like we definitely have different opinions than people. Yeah. That's just always going to exist. Yeah. I
try to think of that when I have interactions like that, particularly on a public page, particularly on something that maybe goes viral or whatever, because y'all do get some people in there that make comments. And sometimes I'll talk and sometimes I won't. But I try to think that whatever I'm talking, I assume that there's women watching who may or may not be considering an abortion. So what are we presenting to them? Are we presenting an angry, argumentative, hateful point of view? Or are we explaining, we're here for you, we understand, we realize that it's hard? Because I think we need to realize it's hard. I think we need to accept that life is hard and motherhood is not always perfect. And I think it's okay to say that. But while it is all that, we will be here for you and help you find the steps that you need along the way. And because too much, it's this, it's that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help them come to your side, and it doesn't help anybody who's watching.
Moms. And that was going to be my next question is thinking forward, what are your hopes for Let Them Live? And I always love asking this because I have my hopes for Let Them Live. Right? God has, I trust in God with his hopes, but I always like to ask people that are involved with Let Them Live, what you hope for.
Man, first of all, I hope you run out of wall space for all the pictures.
I hope to be out of a job, right?
I hope to be out of a job, but I am also a realist, and I realize that if you're remotely religious and understand the Bible, that things are going to go a certain way, and it's not going to be better for now until certain things happen. So until that time comes, that there's probably always going to be abortion. There may or may not be legal. I'm not going to worry about the semantics. But what I hope is that, A, we are out of a job. I pray that. I don't think it's going to happen. It's realistic. So what I hope is that less and less women get abortions. But I also hope that I would love to see kindergarten graduations and junior high graduations and high school graduations, because it's not just this imminent baby right in front of us that we're helping. I really hope that Let Them Live, whoever's in capacity of it. Hopefully you guys get to retire one day, but y'all are youngins. But I hope that we are posting high school graduation pictures of your first moms, and that it's, look what has come from this. I'm hoping that our kids are, and I say our kids because that's old teacher habit, but that our kids are going to college and saying, their mom is saying, thank God for Let Them Live and these volunteers. Otherwise, this child would not be going to college. Not that you paid for college, but that you get to that point.
I feel the same way. Some of our babies are turning 4 coming up, and I'm just like, this is what I've been waiting for, to see them grow up. And I've always had this vision that I just know, like, when they grow up, like some of those babies, I'll be at their wedding and it's going to feel crazy. You know what I mean?
That's what I pray for. Like, it really does. It's such a cliche, but it really does go so fast. I have a 16 and an 18-year-old who's in my 18th month graduated high school. So it really does go super fast, and life changes a lot. And I can't wait. I love seeing the update pictures, and I love seeing their baby pictures, but I cannot wait for that first kindergarten.
I can't wait for all those like milestones. I think that's an amazing hope for Let Them Live. And I'm grateful that you shared that, because I definitely share the same hopes that we just keep helping moms to keep getting to see those milestones.
Because I do have a goal of sending them like hats as they get bigger. I don't know if I'll be able to keep up with it, but if they stay in touch, because when I do try to send the packages, I try to send a hat for now and a hat for later, like whatever winter's coming up that might be about their age. But I would love to send a little 5-year-old hat, a little teenage hat, and an adult hat.
I think that's really cool. I think I would love to see that too. So I'm grateful, Amy. Thank you so much for everything that you do for Let Them Live. Thank you for just giving us all these amazing knitted products and crochet products, and supporting moms that way, and for donating, and for coming on and sharing even your own personal testimony, because we all have one. So Thank you. I'm
Yes.
seriously so grateful. And
Thank you.
I'm excited to see what you guys keep coming up with.
I know. I love when our stuff is in like
Yeah.
the baby pictures, because I know we can't always share the baby pictures. So I'm like, oh, but
Yeah.
that's one of our
I
babies.
think it's awesome. I love it too. So again, thank you so much. And I'm so grateful that you shared. And hopefully you get a lot of people that connect with you that want to keep sending
Yeah.
items.
Look, I will gladly fill up this room. So if people want to send me things, like my husband, he'll complain sometimes because all of this, that's yarn to be, that's stuff to be. And over here is
That's
things,
all this.
there's so much stuff in this room. I'm like, it's for the babies. Be quiet.
It's for the babies. Okay. Yes.
For the babies. It's
I
not going
love
anywhere.
that. Oh my gosh. All right. We'll wrap up. Thank you again. And I hope happy knitting, happy crocheting. See you on Discords. See ya with all the
Yep.
babies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of the Let Them Live podcast. I would like to give a special shout out to Patrick at Moon Shadow Studios, who does an amazing job of editing our podcast. If you're ever in the need for a podcast editor, he is definitely the one to go to. Let Them Live is a Christian nonprofit dedicated to supporting women who are considering abortion primarily due to financial burden. 73% of women have abortions because of financial struggles, and we're here to help bridge that gap. Our goal is to provide the emotional and financial support these women need to feel empowered to choose life. If our cause resonates with you and you're interested in learning more, getting involved, or making a donation, please visit our website at www.letthemlive.org. One amazing way to contribute is by joining our Heartbeat Club, where you can become a monthly donor, and your ongoing support will ensure that we can continue helping women every single month. You can also follow us on social media to stay up to date with all the amazing stories and ways that you can be part of our mission. You can also find me on Instagram at Emily Burning. Thank you again for listening, and please join us for more upcoming inspiring stories and conversations.